CEO of YouTube. She's been at Google for a long time, 15 years plus now?
20 years plus.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So sort of not the whole time, but close to the whole time. So first, let's just get this out of the way. How is quarantine?
It's tough. I think for all of us, we are doing what we can to get through it day by day. There's certainly nice things about being at home, but the environment around us, of course, and reading the news has been so sad, and it's a disruption for everyone. So for us at YouTube, really the focus was making sure we could continue to offer all the services and keep all of our employees safe.
What are the parts of the business that are hardest to do and have been hardest to train to function from an at-home environment?
Probably the biggest challenge in terms of work from home there were two areas. Probably the people who work with hardware that need to test on different machines and equipment. Yeah. And the second one was people who do some of the really sensitive reviews, so our content reviewers. They don't necessarily want to be reviewing some of the more, what we call egregious content in their homes. And so we had to work on ways to be able to accommodate those reviewers.
Have you been doing any communications with the staff to make everybody feel like you're sort of on the same page and they sort of know where YouTube is headed right now?
Yes, definitely. We've continued all of our regular meetings. So we do a company-wide meeting with all of our different offices around the world. And we usually do that weekly, and we've continued that. And we've actually seen a lot of people have been calling in and engaging that way, so they know what's happening. And in some ways, there's a big benefit to that, which is that we can bring on all kinds of speakers from all over the world and different locations.
YouTube obviously is a big influential cultural institution at this point. A lot of people get news and information through YouTube. A lot of people it's a place for distraction. It's a place for entertainment. It's a place for education. On sort of a top level, what do you feel like is YouTube's role in the midst of this crisis?
Well, we immediately felt that we played an important role in getting out valuable health information. And if YouTube does one thing really well, it's getting the word out to our global audience of over 2 billion users. And just the scale that we operate, we know that we can do that effectively. So we immediately began engaging with all the different local health organizations and reaching out and getting the messages in their language and what was appropriate for each of the different countries, and putting that information in our home feed, also making sure that if you typed coronavirus, COVID-19, or there were videos associated with coronavirus on that topic, that we were showing links to different authoritative health organizations. And we have served billions and billions of impressions. Every day I look, it's like 1 billion more health-related impressions. The second thing that we did is we saw that we needed a lot of news information. And so we have a breaking news shelf that triggers in about 30 different countries when something important happens in the world. And we made that pretty much a permanent part of our page so that users could always see what was happening with COVID-19 every single day. And then the third thing is we ran a big campaign to encourage and remind people that staying home saves lives. And so we engaged a lot of creators. So thank you to all the creators who created public service messages with that. And we created some of our own campaign associated with that. And I think last, just helping people connect. We see that there's so many people who are at home. They're unable to do their regular activities, whether it's go to their religious organizations or connect with their school or go to concerts. And so we're always working to figure out how to help people connect.
There's a lot of value there for sure. We also know that we live in an age of information and also of misinformation. One, it's difficult to know when you're talking with there are credible sources and there are mainstream sources, and those things aren't always perfectly overlapped. We've seen some mainstream news organizations that significantly, for seemingly, I would say, political reasons, downplayed the crisis early, whereas you might have some people like Dr. Mike who are just a guy, but a credible one who's taking his role as a science communicator and health communicator seriously. He's not a mainstream news source, but he is a credible one. So balancing that, figuring out how we identify credible pieces of information and what we elevate and what we don't, it is not a simple problem, and it does not seem to be a problem that necessarily can be done anyway, but carefully and thoughtfully and manually and slowly. And slow is really hard on the internet, especially when something very fast is happening in the world.
Yes, so definitely COVID-19 took us all by surprise, just the speed that it moved, and we had to take incredibly fast actions as well. But when we look at misinformation, we were able to leverage the work that we've done over the last couple of years. And so that has been a huge area of focus for us, and we've built a large number of tools and systems and ranking to be able to handle concerns associated with misinformation. One of them is having policies around misinformation and removing content if it violates the policies that we have. And we've had to make a number of policy updates associated with COVID-19. The second one is raising authoritative information associated with it. And we have a variety of ways of ranking that information. We work with Google on some of that ranking. And then the third is making sure that if there is content that we see as lower, or sort of borderline to our policies, that's something that is less likely to show up in any of the recommendations for our users.